Welcome back to the Blister and Muck podcast. I'm Jenny Mason, your host and the creator of the Blister and Muck series. This week, it's a dogfight between the heroes and villains. Don't expect any sort of peace, referendum. Don't expect a lengthy introduction from me either. Dogfights and war zones are serious business. They leave no room for miscellaneous matters. Therefore, don't expect a full debriefing on the heroes' tactics and procedures. Maybe just the bullet points? That seems like a more realistic approach. As you may recall, Blister, Orville, and Barty were the only members of the rescue squadron not trapped in the collapse of the ballroom laboratory. They then advanced deeper into enemy territory and ultimately discovered someone or something inside the Junk Castle library. We know they prefer a sneaky infiltration to an outright head-to-head battle, but let's face it, it's only a matter of time before the dogs of war get loose. And it's always when you least expect it. If dogs of war is a new phrase for you, it refers to the chaos of war and conflict. We can see these dogs at work right now on the news. I'm referring to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, of course. It's truly undognified to watch a larger power bully some underdogs. And yes, I know you're probably shocked to hear that even adults deal with bullies. Bullies don't disappear just because you grow up or finish school. Luckily though, all bullies can be routed. The Ukrainians are proving that as they mount a scrappy defense. Their dogmatic resistance has inspired the world to stand up and oppose Russia's powerful and oppressive leaders. Hopefully, we'll be able to say the same for our heroes, who are also outnumbered, outgunned, and even though they don't yet know it, are about to encounter some truly horrific dogs of war. They may even qualify as hellhounds. Let's just hope Blister can quickly curtail these troubles. Episode 15, The Dogs of War. Outside the library, Blister signaled everyone to proceed with utmost sneakiness. Orville and Barty spread the tower doors open. The collections of taxidermy animals and insect specimens stared back in silent astonishment. The buzz heard all the way down in the ballroom now bleated loud, a symphony of snores. Seated at her desk and still wearing men's attire, Yana flopped forward, snoring over the metropolis of books. The team of lab assistants snoozed at a long trestle table. Vexler Q. Drummel draped across a wing-back chair in front of the fireplace, where flames wriggled around red and black hunks of wood. He too snored. The many cats, including Tabby, barnacled themselves to all available laps. The electric generator also snored in its own humming way. It had received much soldering and welding in Blister's absence. The repairs allowed the machine to once again convert magnetism into energy, spitting only the occasional spark. Wires trailed from the generator to the prototype contraption Blister knew so well. It too had been altered with welding and soldering. Components taken from the ballroom contraption oystered to its sides. It also sported a new glass tank filled with the glowing star blue liquid. All the essences from the vials on the centrifuge had been combined into a single stew. Electric cords and cables inchwormed around the brackets supporting the tank. Slim, sticky threads of electricity issued from them and crackled around the tank. Any time the liquid dimmed, the electric webs tickled back its brightness. 2 impressive imprisoner traps were stationed near the contraption. Muck, Rip, and Spindle filled one. Jan van Sangfreud occupied the other. At the moment, they were all prying, sawing, and scraping at the imperturbable metal mesh with their teeth, or claws, or fingernails, or fangs. Orville and Barty peeled off their wigs and knelt before the old doctor. "Dr. van Sangfreud," Orville exhaled.
"My good man, what a state you are in,"
Barty said. Jan pressed his palm to the mesh. His eyes glistened as he gummed out, "A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth." Orville pressed his hand to the cage. "Decisive is the victory we will invoke here tonight. Immediate will be your release." He yanked on the wires linking the trap to the battery. Their welds to the metal mesh held secure. He braced a foot against the battery block and groaned as he pulled.
"I say, has logic abandoned you?"
Barty restrained him.
"Consider the size of that voltaic power pile. Sever those wires, my good man, and you'll receive a fatal shock."
Orville ended his Titan's tug.
"Sound is your assessment, and foolhardy were my impulses."
The acid hissing and mineralized crackling within the battery's shell issued like snide laughter. Throughout this exchange, Blister ran to the other trap. He did not remember his feet touching the floor, but there he was, gripping the mesh, face to face with Muck, who was not gone forever, not addled and speechless, not any of the things Blister had imagined. Spindle shoved everything but his bulbous back end through the mesh and clung to Blister, who petted and patted the wriggling arachnid.
"And just what sort of truculent trouble have you come to cause?"
Muck clucked. The words were mud in Blister's face.
"I came to rescue you."
"Rescue?" Muck crossed his arms.
"In exchange for what premium prize?" "Nothing. I don't want anything except to get you out of here. I want you to go to Europe and see your family. I realized..."
The words gummed up in Blister's mouth.
"I want you to be happy."
"I'll be holistically happy when you leave me alone."
"You're being ridiculous."
"Am I?"
Muck fumed, his whispers like steam.
"Am I ridiculous to diligently doubt the rat who brutishly betrayed me?"
"I'm trying to tell you I'm sorry."
Blister crossed his arms.
"And as soon as we get you out of here, I promise I'll personally pack you on a speedboat bound for the other side of the Atlantic."
"Any ship you pick will certainly sink."
Muck turned his back to Blister.
"Fine,"
Blister sneered.
"Be ungrateful. Spindle's glad to see me. And so is Rip. Aren't you, buddy?"
"I think you're supremely stupid,"
Rip whispered.
"You could be anywhere else in the world, but here you are, about to be fried up along with the rest of us."
"No one is getting fried up,"
Blister said.
"Especially when all the bad guys are napping. What's wrong with them?"
"After working round the clock, these determined devils finally surrendered to this soporific state,"
Muck harumphed.
"You mean they worked themselves to exhaustion?"
Blister asked. Muck nodded.
We should have a rather easy time restraining these miscreants.
Orville spooled a length of rope out of his smock pocket.
Perhaps you exaggerated in your descriptions, Blister. I hardly call this an army.
They're not all here,
Blister realized.
Where's the woman with the chipped tooth? Where are all the suffragists, the officers of the Rebalanced Society?
Whispering under the fire crackles, snurgling snores, and the droning generator, Rip said,
You mean the crazy ladies in the big hats? They were sent out to find Madame Putresca. They can't return without her.
We won't be seeing them anytime soon, eh, my good man?
Barty nudged the ribs of Jan's cage.
Strike while the iron is hot, especially if the clothes are wrinkled,
the old doctor professed.
He's right,
Blister said. Barty snugged his wig on, then poised a rope over Vexler. Blister picked up a heavy, blunt, scientific measurement tool. If the snoozing lab assistants at the trestle table were like baseballs, then Blister was like a batter waiting for the pitch. Orville re-secured his wig, then stood ready over Yana, rope stretched between his fists.
My poor beloved,
he sighed. The wig's curly tendrils framed his melancholy expression. For a moment, the sad scene seemed to add a tearful shine to the glossy glass eyes of the taxidermied animals. Orville hushed.
We'll all go on the count of 3.
The rescuers nodded. The taxidermy zoo stared in wide-eyed anticipation.
1, 2, 3.
The doorbell rang. The snoring paused. The rescue party halted mid-pounce. Vexler's head lolled to the other shoulder. He mumbled,
Is that my cue? Enter stage right or left?
Yana gripped an imaginary pen and scribbled invisible words on the desk.
Time's up,
she grumbled.
Just let me mark 2 more answers.
Barty looked at Orville with desperation.
Should I answer it, my good man?
Orville shook his head.
Whoever it is will go away.
The doorbell did not ring again. The symphony of snores resumed, less fortissimo and more mezzo piano. Orville breathed.
Once again, on 3. 1, 2.
Fists pounded on the front door. Blister, Orville, and Barty shared an exasperated grimace. Thunder clapped and lightning flashed through the narrow window panes of the stone tower. Yana snapped upright in her chair. Orville leapt back unnoticed. She surveyed the room through the haze of fatigue. She rubbed her eyes and face. In that stolen moment, Orville signaled everyone to hide. Blister dashed to the nearest display of taxidermied possums and porcupines. There, he assumed a frozen posture, pretending to be part of the vermin tableau. Orville and Barty slid to the floor and joined the ranks of sleeping lab assistants. Yana stood up.
What in the world?
Outside, hounds bayed, adding to the rain and wind chorus. Blister's hopes soared. He imagined Gorgeous George, Bertie, and the Rat Pack had escaped the ballroom and were at the front door with the stray dogs. Oh, what an ambush awaited the rogues in the library! Yana picked up an electric prod. The device was a new invention she'd hastily assembled earlier that day from recycled bits of the contraption. A long cord connected the prod to the generator. When Yana toggled a switch on the side of the prod, its jaws slathered with blue electric drool.
Get up! How can you be sleeping at a time like this?
She shouted, startling the cats. Fluffed and hissing, they huddled in a corner. She pressed the prod to Vexler's side. The electricity bent his spine and ribcage in different directions. Yana next applied the zapping stick to many of the lab assistants.
Go answer the door. Hurry up. We're running out of time. I want the serum exchanger ready for testing immediately.
One assistant sprinted out of the library to answer the door. The others slogged back to their work of harassing the knobs and prodding the buttons on the contraption. They checked the swaying needles on the displays, then jotted the results on their charts. To blend in, Orville and Barty grabbed charts and flicked random checkmarks across the pages. Vexler rubbed the smoky bite mark on his shirt.
Maybe I'd be more awake if I hadn't been out till all hours tracking the panther you needed.
Yana clucked.
Stop whining and make yourself useful, Vexler.
She took up a stick of chalk and attacked one of the rolling chalkboards, scratching equations across it. Before Vexler could retort, a disfigured dog pack smacked through the big doors and raced around the library. The cats climbed the bookshelves. Books thudded like bricks. Much to Blister's horror, the dogs were not the recruited strays, but rather the women who had enlisted as officers of the rebalanced society. Their hands and feet knuckled into thick paws. Furry arms and legs stuck out of the tattered, muddy remains of their fine dresses. Their misshapen jaws had tried and failed to form doggy-like snouts. Tufts of fur rimmed their long, floppy ears and saggy hound cheeks. Some galloped on all fours, while others waddled on canine legs with ankles high above the foot, adding an extra bend where a human leg is normally straight. The cats snarled. The canine creatures barked. The tangy, foul odor of sewage stippled the air. Yana and the lab assistants pinched their noses. Blister held his breath.
Good girls, come here.
Yana coaxed the creatures to a basin of water on the floor. She uncorked a vial containing a bright blue liquid and dribbled several drops into the basin.
You must be so thirsty.
The beasts slapped their pink tongues at the water. Then they patted away and shook off rainwater and the green and brown sludge caked to their rags. This sludge splattered the cats, who immediately launched into vigorous grooming that knocked many more books off the shelves. Mrs. Chettingley trudged into the room and snapped her soggy parasol shut. Rainwater puddled around her. Although the smelly sludge dolloped her dress, she was without fur and still ranged on 2 legs. She cradled a newspaper and the jar full of Blister's memories in one arm.
These were absolutely useless,
she complained of the memory bubbles as she slid the jar onto Yana's desk.
I think that rat tricked you. Yes, yes.
Who cares? Yana thumbed the suspenders looped over her shoulders.
You found Madame Putresca. Where was she at last? I don't know.
Mrs. Chettingley sneezed into her handkerchief.
We searched the caverns under Excess Capital Bank and nothing. Yes, we also searched every inch of the city's sewers and couldn't find any trace of Madame Putresca.
Vexler released a superior snort.
You mean you failed? I'll go find her.
Vexler limped for the exit.
Enjoy the long walk, Mr. Drummel.
Mrs. Chettingley called after him.
I'll take one of the trucks.
He chuffed.
Yes, good idea. Why not take the cargo truck you abandoned at the bottom of the driveway? We had to ditch our trucks and walk the whole way.
Mrs. Chettingley complained.
I arrived here by horse and wagon.
There's a truck blocking the driveway, no matter what you say, Mr. Drummel. Yes.
Barty eyed Orville, who reddened.
Excuse me, Mrs. Chettingley. Vexler's right,
Yana said as she took up the electric prod.
You completely failed me.
She squeezed the button on the prod. White electric hairs zapped from the tip. Yana stalked Mrs. Chettingley, who backed away, insisting she'd done her best. Vexler stayed in the library, grinning. Eventually, Mrs. Chettingley found her retreat blocked by the very table where Blister hid among the taxidermy vermin. When she bumped it, Blister and the other frozen creatures tottered. Cornered, Mrs. Chettingley thrust her arms forward as a last defense. The handkerchief and forgotten newspaper flopped to the floor. She swiped up the paper and spread its front page like a shield.
We couldn't keep searching because of this,
Mrs. Chettingley whimpered.
Police were everywhere. Yes, questioning everyone.
Yana surveyed the headline. Blister did not have to read anything to know what Yana was about to discover. The crude, ape-like drawings of Vexler showboating a caged panther were the same ones he'd seen earlier, now reprinted for the cover story on the evening paper.
Vexler, I think you have some explaining to do.
Doggone it. Our heroes almost apprehended the bad gals and Guy without a fight, but bad luck prevailed. How will they recover from these setbacks? Can they preserve what's left of their dognity? They might as well pack it in. Collar it a day. Tune in next time to find out if Vexler flees from Yana's wrath. Or maybe she'll pause and reflect on her sinister schemes. She'll undergo a rough formation. Or maybe she'll remain a good nothing scoundrel. My producers are hounding me about these dog and war puns being little more than weapons of mass distraction. Just goes to show you that being a podcast host is largely a thankless job. Thankfully, you listeners make it all worthwhile. Please stop by blisterandmuck.com and use the contact form to tell me what you think will happen next. Know any dog jokes better or worse than these? What do dogs eat for breakfast? Poached eggs. Which dogs are the cleanest? Shampoodles. What do dogs and cell phones have in common? Both have caller ID. Share your best bad joke, and I'll give you a shout-out when I share it on the show. You'll never miss an episode when you subscribe to the show directly at blisterandmuck.com. Subscribing is free, and you get an email alert as soon as the newest episode releases. While you're at the website, I encourage you to please lend your support by making a donation or by selecting a cozy, colorful hat, shirt, or face mask from the Blister and Muck gift shop. A portion of your purchase helps cover the costs of web hosting, sound effects, and music licensing. And you'll find a special surprise from the entire Blister and Muck crew has been enclosed with your order. And if money is not a visitor that often comes to stay in your home, you can definitely support the show by giving it some stars or a positive review on whatever app or platform you use to listen along. Reviews and likes help other listeners discover this madcap caper. Special thanks to Roland Rudzitis for serving up the Blister and Muck theme song. Additional music from Deanne Key, John Bartman, Mon Plaisir, and Kevin MacLeod. Daniel Simeon crackled the fire. Mike Koenig cracked the thunder. Cat sounds from Snapper 4298 and K9. Creepy howls and dog snarls from Panther, Craig Smith, Tower, Frontier Sounds, and Phonos UPF. Guitar Guy 1985 and deleted user knocked and rang the doorbell. Electrical sounds from Mick Fire, Mike Koenig, That Jeff Carter, Gran Torino 551, Construct-A-Beat, Waker 1, Zot 820, and KV Garlic. All other sounds from the public domain. Last but not least, special thanks also goes out to my family, friends, and fans. One for one, and all for you.